We have become weak. We have castrated ourselves, and we have basically said anything that is controversial, anything that has conflict in it, anything that has war, anything that has anything to do with like Christ's lion nature is bad, or it's evil, or it's not Christ-like. Because again, we're so consumed in his lamb nature that we don't even recognize his warrior side, his kingliness, and his lion nature.
Hello, welcome to the Lions Awaken show. We have Daniel here in the Lions Den again with us today. We are going to share more of our thoughts on the whole Russia-Ukraine thing because we like talking about it, and there's a lot of controversy and a lot of different opinions going on about it. So we're going to share with you our thoughts. I don't know if you guys saw one of our previous podcasts that we did called Was Putin's Invasion Justified? And that we kind of covered the basics, and we shared our thoughts on that. But we're going to go into a little bit more details this round. And you don't want to miss it. So stay tuned. Keep watching. That's what I mean. So anyway, we have Daniel here. Thanks for joining us, Daniel Emmanuel.
Thank you for having me again. It's amazing to share with you guys.
All right.
And with all you.
Yeah.
I think it's more of the lions in Daniel's den rather than Daniel in the lion's den.
For real. All right, so one of the things that I think we want to cover today is just the hypocrisy of the left with this whole Ukraine narrative. So I know we were talking earlier today about just this rhetoric from the left, not especially from the left. I mean, a lot of conservatives are jumping on it too with we need to stand for Ukraine and Putin is so evil, and you know. But when you look at the actions of what Western leaders have actually done. So I kind of want to talk about that today. So if you want to share your thoughts.
Yeah, well, I think it's very hypocritical of what the left is saying. And all of a sudden the left is all about championing freedom. And they're all pro-Ukrainian, the Ukrainian people defending themselves, defending their nation, defending freedom, which is good. I'm not against that. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. But when people here back home do the same thing with their freedoms, with the whole COVID restrictions. It's like, you know, they demonize you.
You're a terrorist.
You're a terrorist.
Yeah.
You're someone who, but that's the thing. It's like they're the enemy though. The left here in America are the domestic enemy of the people here who are fighting for freedom, while in Ukraine, the enemy is Russia, and the left hates Russia. Because again, they're not a globalist nation. And so I just think it's hypocritical. And yeah, I don't like their double standard.
I also think like when you talk about evil, well, one of the greatest evils we have in the West is abortion and how it has killed 60 million babies. And I don't know what the death toll is in Ukraine, but I don't think it has reached 60 million. And I don't think it keeps going.
Population's 40 million.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, and I don't think it keeps growing by the thousands each day like abortion is here in the West. So when you talk about evil, what is more evil than that? Truly going literally against life in its purest form in the womb. And then they are, well, war is evil too. I understand that. War is not something anybody wants.
Right.
I don't think Russians want war either. Like, if you ask Russian soldiers, hey, do you want to be deployed to go and kill some people in Ukraine? They're going to say, of course not. Okay? Also, Ukraine is half Russian, so basically. So they, of course, won't want to go and fight. But well, it's just hypocritical for them to be pointing the finger at somebody's evil and stuff and just ignore all the evil things that are happening here at home.
Right. You're saying the same leaders that say that the people that Putin is killing is horrible when they're advocating
for abortion.
Babies to be killed in the womb.
The U.S. government has sanctioned the death by allowing abortion to be legal.
Exactly.
They've sanctioned the population of Ukraine and more for the innocent lives being shed, because 60 million babies, like that's more than the population of Ukraine itself. So we cannot be,
blind,
shifting blame and telling, Putin to look in the mirror and all this stuff when we ourselves have a lot of blood on
And
our
even I could say that war, it's a necessary evil, because sometimes you have to go to war for some interests as a country. But abortion is totally unnecessary.
Yeah.
So you are blame shifting and pointing the finger at
Abortion is unnecessary for what?
It's unnecessary. It's
Unnecessary
totally
death.
unnecessary.
Yeah, unnecessary death.
Evil. It's just evil, unnecessary evil.
Right.
But war may be necessary at some point for a country's interest.
Right.
So what I'm saying is that Western leaders are pointing the finger at a necessary evil while they have a totally unnecessary evil like abortion is.
So are you saying that this war is necessary?
Well, in Putin's perspective, it is. What do you think, Matthew?
Well, can you share why? Why do you think this is necessary for Putin?
Well, I think it is necessary for Putin because, well, he said it. It's Eastern Ukraine has been culturally and even in the language basically Russian. And
It's a national security threat.
yeah, and having Ukraine as in a military alliance with the US and the EU could be basically having a nuclear weapons deployed of their enemies deployed right at their borders, which is what they didn't want. And that's why, the US and the Soviet Union, when the Soviet Union dissolved in 91, they did a treaty basically that said that they were not going to intervene in Ukraine. So Ukraine was going to be a neutral state completely. But Ukraine had to give up their nuclear weapons to Russia. And so it was. Ukraine gave the nuclear weapons to the Russians, but then both Russia and the West influenced Ukraine in its politics. And now we have this mess, basically. But right now, as of 2 or 3 months ago, it was the West who was going to intervene by allowing Ukraine to join NATO. Therefore, Russia had to do something.
And that's what bothers me the most about all this is that very little conservative spokespeople are even referencing this or even talking about the NATO thing. It's like
there's like a handful of people that think like us that are outspoken.
It's like
we are so in the minority with our viewpoint.
They think NATO has nothing to do with it, and they think Ukraine aligning themselves with the West has nothing to do with the Russian invasion. When that's a huge reason why Putin invaded. He literally said it himself.
Because they think literally that Putin just invented that or he just made that
he just wants to recreate the Soviet Union.
And he used it as a pretext.
Instill communism and Marxism everywhere, which
Exactly.
I don't believe that's necessarily
I don't
true
think
at
that's
all.
what he wants. But he wants his neutral state of Ukraine. And also other hypocrisy that I see with the Western leaders is how we talked about this on the last one with Cuban Missile Crisis.
Oh yeah.
The response of the US and how the US could literally never allow Mexico or Canada, you said it earlier, to ally themselves with China, for example, in a military alliance. They could never allow it. But then when the US tries to do the same with Ukraine, then Russia is to blame because they invaded. So that's hypocritical for me too. I think that's hypocritical.
And speaking of the hypocrisy of the left, Trudeau, who literally declared war on his own citizens that were fighting for freedom, is standing for Ukraine.
Exactly.
How ironic is that?
Yeah, I know. It's ridiculous.
Like these people that want to praise Ukraine as this freedom, beautiful, democratic country. Now it's time to fight for them. They're so heroic when they're fighting for their own country. But like you said, as soon as we fight for our own rights and fight for our own God-given rights, fight for our Constitution, which our leaders are supposed to protect and uphold with their life. They make an oath to God that they're supposed to uphold that Constitution. But yet when they don't do it and we stand up to defend for that, we are evil.
We're demonized.
We're demonized. I mean, look at these January 6 prisoners. They literally went there to protest an insurrection or a coup d'etat or they went to protest a stolen election, and now they're in prison. with no rights, like everything taken off.
Yeah.
So, and another one is all these people are deeming Putin as this very evil man. So I kind of want to go through, and I know we've been discussing this a little bit offset, but let's compare Putin with Western leaders instead of comparing him with Jesus or perfectionism.
Yeah.
Because it seems like the same, how we like to compare America
to heaven.
with heaven,
Yeah.
we like to all of a sudden compare Putin with Jesus.
Yeah.
Like, okay, let's take a step back and let's look at, okay, everything that people are accusing Putin of doing, what have we done in the past? Like, it seems like we have done a lot of the same things we're accusing Putin of doing, right?
Well,
Putin, abortion, you covered that. And we covered
Russia has restrictions on abortion. And also Russia has laws against homosexuality, homosexual marriage. Putin is anti-transgenderism. He's anti-woke ideology. He calls women and men, and he just believes in two biological sex, common sense, science stuff. He's not for this Islamic agenda. And, you don't hear about terrorist attacks in Russia because he doesn't just let anyone in his country. He's a nationalist. He protects his border. He's Russia first. He's actually very similar in some ways to Donald Trump in that respect, in those regards. He's a nationalist. And he upholds traditional values. He's pro-family. He's pro-Christian, Russian Orthodox Christianity. Yes, there's religious restrictions and freedom. I'm not saying it's paradise or anything like that.
No.
But morally speaking, it is not depraved like it is in the West. There is moral order in Russia. It's not moral anarchy like it is in the West, where perversion is rampant, it's promoted, it's celebrated here. In Russia, it's not like that at all. And so we can't judge, like what Matt was saying, Putin to Jesus, but if we judge Putin to our Western leaders, he is like Jesus in the sense of morality. Let's be real here. But again, we have become so soft as a civilization that any form of warfare or conflict or military or anything, those are trigger words for us because we're in this civilization of safe space and, my feelings. It's all about, I can't offend you. It's like, we have lost touch with reality and how things work and how nations are forged and how nations are preserved and how freedoms are fought for. It's through blood, sweat, tears. It's through blood and iron and steel. This is reality. This is history.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
and Putin knows history.
So the matter of fact is this: Putin, again, we're not defending in the sense of him. Everything that he did throughout this invasion is correct or moral or justified. But the man himself, the fact that he promotes all those things I just listed and he's against all those things I just listed should tell you something about his character and that he's not this evil monster that the mainstream media and the Democratic Party and even Republicans make him out to be.
Yeah, even if we compare him with Zelensky, because some people say that Putin has people like some of his opposition party in jail or reporters.
Journalists, yeah.
Well,
Shut
guess what?
down TV channels.
Guess what? Zelensky has done the same.
Yep.
In the corrupt list of corrupt countries, I just read it. Ukraine is 4 spots above Russia, something like that. So it's like they're both huge corrupt countries, and there's a lot of corruption in both countries. It's not like an angel, because I see the media trying to portray, the devil is trying to conquer the angel nation of Ukraine. It's like, no.
That's exactly right.
But that is not what is happening. It's like, it's a corrupt, Ukraine is also a corrupt nation. Also, we have talked about Hunter Biden and all the business that there is from even American politicians in Ukraine. So there is a lot of corruption also going on in Ukraine. And I'm not saying that justifies the Russian invasion. There's other political, military reasons that justify the invasion. Mm-hmm. But in that sense, you cannot say, it's this ugly, crazy egomaniac dude trying to fight this poor little guy that is pure and gentle and lowly and Christ-like.
Yeah.
No, that's not what is happening at all. It's just
It's not a David and Goliath thing.
No,
it's
not
Goliath versus another Philistine.
yeah,
that is just as evil.
It's just smaller.
Yeah,
it's just
smaller.
smaller Philistine, but
exactly.
And they literally make it out to be a David and Goliath
Yeah.
story. And, it is sad for the Ukrainian citizens.
it is.
Because,
Of course.
It is.
if we would be
Casualties.
Ukrainian citizens, I would be fighting against Russia 100% because that's my country. But like
It
we
is.
also watched a video earlier today of this Colonel Doug
McGregor.
He was saying the best thing that Zelensky can do for his country, because this is an unwinnable war for him, because how do you think you're going to defeat the Russian army, which is the second most powerful army after the United States? How do you think you're going to beat them with, yes, you are the biggest country in Europe besides Russia. Ukraine is. But the best thing you can do for your citizens, McGregor said, was to just remain neutral. Just quit this stupid war. Best thing you can do for your citizens.
That's what Putin wanted, too.
And that's what Putin wanted. And all this could have been prevented. All Putin wanted was for the United States leaders to promise him to not make Ukraine part of NATO. And we refused to do it.
Yeah.
That's the other thing about Western leaders is in war, you need to know your enemy. You need to know the demands for peace. They have totally ignored what Putin has wanted from the beginning. Putin, when you listen to what he says in his press conferences, he makes it very clear what he wants. And he's like, I don't understand what you guys don't understand. My objections are completely reasonable. What would you do if we come put up missiles on your border,
exactly.
and all this stuff? Like, he's very logical. It's like, wow, this guy actually makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
But that's the thing. The Western leaders, the globalists, the elites, they wanted him to invade. They wanted him to fall into this trap so that they can demonize him because they control the media. They control the narrative. They wanted him to do this so that they can demonize him, get him either assassinated or killed or ostracized to where they can probably put in a globalist type leader in Russia to then play ball with their globalist agenda.
Yeah,
And the sad thing is they've accomplished by ruining his name already.
I
mean, the whole world is against him.
Yep.
Netflix is canceled. McDonald's is canceled.
yeah.
Visa, MasterCard. The world, like the ruble is down to like hundreds of what it was. Our economy's going. I mean, it's just.
And then people get mad because Russia is looking to China for help. And it's like, we're the ones that pushed Russia towards China. Yeah. Like, why? Oh my, it's like me punching Daniel, beating Daniel up, and he goes to Matt for help, and I get mad because he's going to Matt, and it's like, I led him to that, like, it's frustrating because, again, we're not saying Putin is an angel. He's by no means an angel.
Not at all.
Yes, he's he has authoritative tendencies and character and things like that, and Russia is corrupt, of course. But we have to realize all the other factors that play into this. And
It's a complex issue.
it's very complex.
And again, when we want to go accuse Putin of doing stuff, let's look at what our leaders have done, and let's look at what Zelensky is doing. We want to say Putin has, like you said, he's jailed people, he's killed people. Zelensky has done that. Guess what? Our government has done the exact same thing.
Yep.
And okay, let's talk about invading other countries. What have we done with Iraq? What was Syria? Syria. And
the intervention in Libya. That was
Libya.
NATO intervening Libya.
And it's okay for us to go blow up, like we literally blew up hospitals, we blew up apartment buildings, we blew up civilians. It was totally okay.
Because it was justified.
It was justified
in
because it was
our
a political
perspective.
Well, it was a moral. Okay, there's another thing. A lot of people want to make this decision very easy. It's good versus evil. The moral thing to do is to stand with the Ukrainians. So my question to you is this a moral issue?
You take it first.
Come on, Venezuelan.
Okay, so I think we are talking from a military perspective, okay? And I don't think this is a moral issue of good versus evil necessarily. We know war is evil, like war is not good. And I wish war could not existed. And Jesus wanted to end war so much that he declared war on evil, literally. And that took him to the cross. And when the kingdom comes, war will not exist in our kingdom. Peace will be established in the land. And Jesus will reign forever. And I'm hoping that day to come really quick, really soon. But until that day comes, war will still exist on this earth. Until the last day, people will be at war. So my point being is that, I don't think it's an issue of good versus evil. I think it's an issue of interests of countries that are colliding. And people demonize Putin so much because they don't like, in our culture, we hate confrontation. We hate it. We don't
We hate strong leadership too.
Yeah, and we don't like
Trump.
we don't like disagreeing. We hate disagreeing. And this country was founded by people who agreed on the cause, but they disagreed on so many other issues. So I don't think it is good to demonize Putin just because he decided to go to war. And I don't think in this sense war is necessary evil, or it may be a necessary evil in that sense for him and for his country as he sees it. So I don't think you can say necessarily, oh, Putin was evil and Zelensky or Ukraine was right. It's not. Guess what? If Ukraine comes and beats all the Russian soldiers and kills the 200,000 Russian soldiers, guess what? We're going to say, oh, Ukraine was right. Because they prevailed with force. And that's how you do that's how you deal with this stuff. It's with force. Even though people don't like to hear about it, it is that way. Every country establishes themselves by force. Yeah. And they keep themselves by force. Like if you are listening to this and you're a citizen of any country in the world, let me tell you something. Your country was established by force. And violence. And it is kept every day by force and violence because that's what a court of law is.
Might is right. That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, what is that moral? Is might is right? Is that moral? No, but it's a fact.
It's a fact.
Right?
It is a fact.
It doesn't make it morally right necessarily, but guess what? They have more power, so unless you want to get annihilated and killed,
you got to surrender.
You have to surrender. I mean, it's wisdom. And when we talk about... Sorry, now to you.
Well, I was just saying, to add on to your point, Russia's the top dog in his region. Mm-hmm. Therefore, he gets the final say in that region.
Exactly.
It's that simple. Like, that's how it works. That America, same thing. Yes, you could say you can bring in morality on how you do it, on how you establish that force. But again, might is right. So in that respect, then it's not a moral issue. But if we want to bring, and this goes back to my other point previously, if we want to bring morality into this, we must first point our fingers to ourselves and what we have done.
Yeah.
All the immoral things we have done, again, blowing up civilian hospitals,
allowing abortion,
allowing 60 million to die, homosexuality. We're allowing the transgender movement to literally castrate our children and to change their gender. Like, we should not even bring in morality with this issue regarding Putin when we ourselves, like, if we're on the scales right now, Putin's down, or sorry, we're down here and Putin's up here
with morality,
like with evil and with morality. Like, he's got the higher ground, in my opinion, when it comes to morality and that stuff. So,
because he banned abortion in Russia, right?
There's high restrictions on it. Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's completely banned, but there's high restrictions. But again, everything else. So, but is it moral to invade another country? Well, again, what was the reason behind it? Yeah. National security. Mm-hmm. We would have done the same thing. Yeah. So, does that make us immoral if we would have done the same thing to Mexico or Canada?
Yeah, and again, we have to ask the question: to whom is it morally right? Okay, let's say it's morally right to defend the Ukrainians, and then we drive Russia into China, and then next year, Russia and China come against us and annihilate all of our citizens. That's right. Guess what? In the long run, it wasn't morally right because now we've defeated our own people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, we have to step back and look at this from a big picture.
Big picture.
Yeah.
Like, why is it so hard to just sit down with Putin and listen to what he's actually saying and be like, you made a good point. We want you as an ally because guess what? We know China's an enemy. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, all of our Western woke leaders are in bed with China.
It's all the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and it's like cyclical. It's just they're all mixed in together. And again, there's lesser of two evils, lesser of three evils. They're all evil. We're all evil here.
Yeah. Let's not compare anybody with Jesus or heaven.
Yeah,
here.
exactly.
We have to be realistic.
But here's another good point is, I wonder how Putin is viewing us morally. Like in the sense of, he thinks it's immoral for NATO, probably, to set up military bases on his border. He's like, I don't know if he views that as immoral, but he could, since we're bringing up morality and we're saying that it's immoral for him to invade. Well, maybe he's saying that it's not. Maybe he's saying that it's moral for him to invade. Do you know what I mean? Like he can toss that right back at us with the morality.
Yeah, because we would do the same. This is not about moral or immoral. This is about it is convenient to my country. It is not convenient. It's strategically, militarily. That's why I like so much Colonel McGregor's perspective, because he is a military man and he understands that Putin is seeing this from a military perspective, but the rest of the world, they are seeing it personally. Like I couldn't be a Ukrainian right now. I feel the people of Ukraine's pain. Yeah, you know what? It sucks. It's bad, and it shouldn't be that families are being split apart. Yeah, that parents are kids are being orphans right now because of this war. Like husbands are dying and wives are being widows right now. That sucks. But that is the world we live in. And what are you gonna do? You know,
could have been avoided.
Jesus was the one who fixed that problem, and that's it.
Now, if the U.S. wouldn't have done anything in Ukraine, and we would have said, you know what, we're not going to make Ukraine part of NATO, and Putin still would have done this, this would be a whole different story, in my opinion. This would be a whole different story.
We can't play that game.
We can't, because that's not what happened.
Yeah, that's not what happened.
And Putin, we want to talk about Putin, and people want to talk about his intentions. When you listen to his press conferences, he's made himself very clear. And he said, I don't know why you don't understand me. And then also, what was it, last year he made a 4-hour speech or something. He literally said that the West is committing suicide on our own culture because we allow men to be women, women to be men. We don't call breastfeeding anymore. It's now human feeding. And he just exposed all this stuff that we're doing. And he said, yes, my country did that back in Stalin and Lenin's day when they tried to implement Marx and Engels theories, and that didn't work. So he understands what we're trying to do.
He literally said, too, in that speech, that the West is removing its foundation of Judeo-Christian values.
Yeah.
That's literally what he said in that speech. This is Putin.
That's Putin. That's the Satanist.
That's I'm like...
People say he's a Satan guy, evil guy.
He's not crazy. He's a very smart man.
You listen to his speech and Joe Biden's speech, I'm sorry, but Putin is a lot more on a lot moral and military issues than Biden or any of our Western leaders are.
Yeah, when Colonel McGregor was asked, what he's going to do after...
Conor McGregor? No, I'm kidding. Colonel McGregor, yeah.
Colonel. Douglas McGregor. When he was asked what he was going to do after invading Ukraine, what Putin was going to do, then he said, I think he's just going to stay in eastern Ukraine probably, then give western Ukraine to Ukraine as a neutral state, and then that's it, because that's what he wants. He wants a neutral state, but eastern Ukraine has historically been part of Russia. And I think that's what he's going to do, because that's what matches his words. And he doesn't want a full-blown war against NATO. He knows that's not profitable. That's not convenient to him or to his nation. So why could he do it? He's not... I don't see him as a crazy madman trying to conquer over the world. He has had clear demands, and they have not been met. And now he's going to
met, totally ignored, as if he never said anything.
And now he's
totally disrespected the guy.
And now he's going to make them meet his demands by force.
Yeah.
which a general does.
Exactly.
And then that's it.
Which a strong leader does, exactly.
Yeah.
And I want to encourage our viewers, our listeners, just like what the mainstream media did to Donald Trump by twisting and putting words in his mouth, go straight to the source. Actually go and listen to Putin's speeches. Read articles with his quotes and actually go and listen to what Putin himself has said and what he's done. Don't just take the mainstream media's word. Don't take conservative voices' words for it. Don't take our words for it.
No.
Go
Do
search
your
this
own
stuff out
research.
yourself. Do your own research. We're not just
Search
pulling
up.
this out of our butt. And this isn't just our opinions. We have done research and we have found that, okay, this is what Putin has said. This is what he done. It matches. It makes sense. Again, we're not defending him.
We're not
He's not an angel.
justifying him. at all.
But we're saying that what the mainstream media is painting this picture, it's not the picture that is reflecting reality. Let's just say that. So yeah, please do your own research. Please go and look at, go to the horse's mouth to hear
Exactly.
what he actually has said and done.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good. Remnant TV has great videos about this, where he talks about the globalist thing. And here's another whole factor into the whole thing. Putin is against the whole fourth industrial revolution with Davos, World Economic Forum, where they want to do a great reset. And he showed videos of this guy literally saying that we're the last generation of Homo sapiens, that we basically wants to
Transhumanism.
Yeah,
That's what
he
they
wants to create humans his own way, totally mocking God. I mean, it's horrible. And to control, he's saying humans won't have a free will. Yeah. So we also have to take in consideration is, the Western leaders that are pro-Ukraine, that are feeding this narrative, are globalist leaders that want this for us. They want to take away all our freedoms. They literally said that themselves, that we will not have a free will. So I'm not just making this up.
Yep.
And so do we want a Putin who is against that, and he actually wants to defend a Judeo-Christian nation? He doesn't want globalist leaders to come in, control his country. He wants morality. We have that, and then we have the globalist leaders who are making him sound bad, and they're all about taking away all our freedoms. Mm-hmm. So we have to step back and look at this whole thing, and Michael J. Matt does a good job with that in Remnant.
And that's the thing, too, real quick. The restrictions you see in Russia, that's the point. You see them. They're open. They're clear. Mm-hmm. We see Putin for what he is. In the West, with these globalists, they are wolves in sheepskin.
Just absolute hypocrites.
Absolute hypocrites. They may not take away our freedoms, just how Putin takes away, his citizens' freedoms, but they might not do that in the same way, but they are doing it. And it's going to be way worse than how Putin has restricted his nation, his citizens' freedoms. Because here's the thing. In Russia, the religion is Russian Orthodoxy. That is the religion. At least there's a branch of Christianity there. In the West, they're trying to remove religion altogether. Not religion, actually, to God's Christianity, because the religion is the state. The religion is man. But the point is this. Christians cannot be deceived by these wolves in sheepskin. We have to see them for what they truly are. And these guys are trying to literally take away our God-given rights and freedoms. Remember 2 weeks to stop the spread. 2 weeks to stop
and anybody
COVID.
That questioned that
2
was
years
totally
later,
immoral.
exactly. 2 years later, our freedoms aren't even completely back. All of our freedoms. 2 years, not 2 weeks, 2 years. Because once you give the government an inch, they will take 100 yards.
The same people that want to say democratic, wonderful country Ukraine are the same people that were advocating to censor Donald Trump, take him off of Twitter, and go ban conservatives in the United States. Like, how much more hypocritical do you need to get than that? Like, it's just absolutely stupid. And I'm tired of hearing these dumb lies.
They're wolves, man.
Yeah,
Absolute wolves.
I just want to say that our hearts go to the people of Ukraine, and we love those people, and we pray for those people, for God to console to bring consolation to the families, for God to help them in this hour of distress, for
the war to end. So it doesn't have
for
to
the war
happen.
to end, exactly. But we see all this from a military perspective.
And
political perspective.
And moral, no?
And if you want to see like the biblicals or something else, well, you can go to the Bible. But we are talking to you from a political, military perspective, and that's why we're being so clear. Because we are on a chessboard game, and what Putin is doing makes sense. Zelensky is losing, and he has to just stand up and say, hey, you won? Let's come to terms.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep.
If they truly care about the Ukrainian people like they do, then they would realize this is not a winnable war. Like, I'm sorry, but Russia is too big, and they got a bunch of nuclear weapons, and let's just make peace.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
that's what I think. And that's why Colonel McGregor said.
Colonel McGregor.
Colonel McGregor.
Sounds like you're saying Conor McGregor, the UFC fighter.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, exactly what Daniel said. Our prayers are for the Ukrainian people, and we don't we're not defending this war at all. We're just, again, these are our opinions. They're just our opinions. Everyone has their opinions, so we're just sharing ours.
Yeah. And we want to share a side that isn't really well covered, that you don't hear often. I mean, great conservative people that I've followed, loved over these last couple of years are just, they don't talk about this at all.
Yeah.
Great people, the policies are great on a lot of stuff. Their ideas are great on a lot of stuff, but this certain topic, I don't agree with a lot of these conservatives. It's just put yourself in Putin's shoes. Mm-hmm. And what would you have done in this situation? From a military and a leader for your country.
Yeah.
Well, they would have been like, we wouldn't have invaded Ukraine. We would have just let them set,
nuclear weapons
on the border. But the question is, really,
would you really have done that?
And I think no, but
yeah,
they would say that.
And now we've driven Russia into China and Iran, and so now we got a way bigger crisis on our hands than this.
The new Axis powers.
Yeah.
It's way worse than World War II. But anyway.
And the fact that they are talking to him as a demonized man. It's like, dude, he's a general. If King David could be alive and could be in Putin's position, he could do exactly the same.
If King David was alive today, 3/4 of the church, maybe more, would reject him. They would call him an evil man. They would call him a warmonger, an authoritative.
Completely.
They would not see his heart. They would not recognize his heart. And that's all because, again, there's a huge lack of discernment within the church. Mm-hmm. That is why that was why there was such a huge split between Donald Trump.
And
because the church could not discern the hand of God on Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Because again, compared to Jesus, he's so imperfect.
Yeah, exactly.
Imperfect.
And because in this world peace era that we're in, waging war is the greater evil.
Yeah.
It's like the greatest evil you can do is declare war.
Yeah.
If you
conventional war.
Yeah. If you are not aligned with basically the world agenda.
Yeah. And the church has become emasculate. We have become weak. We have castrated ourselves, and we have basically said anything that is controversial, anything that has conflict in it, anything that has war, anything that has anything to do with Christ's lion nature is bad, or it's evil, or it's not Christ-like. Because again, we're so consumed in his lamb nature that we don't even recognize his warrior side, his kingliness, and his lion nature. Because we're weak, we become weak and soft.
I don't know why we thought or we imagined that the world borders that they are set by God or something, like God's finger just did every border in the world, and then people cannot invade. So it's like,
but that's the thing with the globalists. The globalists don't believe in borders until it's affecting their globalist agenda, like Ukrainian borders. Russia wants to protect their borders, and they're demonized. Nationalists, white nationalists, demonized. Ukraine wants to protect their borders, but because Ukraine's in the globalist agenda, where eventually there'll be no borders, it's like, oh, Ukraine has to defend their borders and from Russia and all. It's like, it's such hypocrisy.
We didn't even cover that hypocrisy part of people saying we need to defend Ukraine's borders and leave open our border, thousands of miles of it, completely open to thugs and murders and human trafficking.
Drugs, all that stuff.
Cartels, gangs. Let's just let them over the border. Yeah. Don't have to have a vaccine or nothing, but you, sir, if you're a citizen, you got to have a vaccine.
That's right.
I tell you, now I got to take your gun.
And Canadians, if they're not vaccinated, they can't come into the border. But Mexicans who do not share our culture to the extent of Canadians. Sorry, I'm not trying to offend you, Daniel. I know you're Venezuelan, so you're close to the Mexicans.
Let me get a towel for your back.
Yeah. But it's ridiculous. It's just
the same country, different borders, two totally different border policies. How does that even work?
It's politics. It's all about propaganda, politics, and agendas.
Yeah, I think the same. You guys are having an invasion, quiet invasion through your southern border.
Exactly.
Listen to this. Politics is not a game of logic and reasoning. Politics is a game of agenda and of agendas and convenience
and backroom deals.
Exactly. It is not the game of logic or reasoning or truth. Exactly. Yeah,
that's sad but true. Sad but true. Metallica. Anyway,
demonic band. Okay.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. That's our opinion and our perspective.
Sticking with it.
Facts from the Lion's Den. Me, Caleb, and Daniel. So please give us feedback. We welcome any feedback, any negative feedback. Share your opinions. You know, this is why America's so great, because until we get censored, we can still share our thoughts and disagree and debate and talk bad about our leaders. That's what makes us so great. Free speech. So leave us a comment, leave us a like, share if you like it, share it with your friends, and let's talk about it. So until next time, God bless you.